Welcome everyone to the Wilton School District, Monday, March 2018, board meeting, 5:30 p.m. The mission of the Wilton Community School District is to provide an education that encourages continual progress through the improvement of one's abilities, the expansion of one's interests and knowledge, and the growth of one's character. Roll call to order, please, Joy.
Linda Duncan.
Here.
Tony Hurd. Rob Metzger.
Here.
Gary Maurer.
Here.
Caroline.
Here. All right, thank you, Joy. Agenda approval, any changes, additions, or corrections, Mr. Burnett?
None.
All right.
Motion to approve the agenda?
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll go through the minutes. First, we'll do the February 12th regular meeting.
Move to approve the February 12th regular board meeting minutes.
Second?
Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. February 15th, special meeting.
Move to approve the minutes from the special meeting on February 15th.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, the February 28th special meeting.
Move to approve the February 28th special meeting.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Lastly, the February 28th work session.
Motion to approve the work session?
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, public forum.
Yeah, we have Mr. Bruns here tonight with some of his class, and
Working with our dead battery.
you're fine. You can talk a little bit about it. And, Mr. Bruns, if you want to give a little background on what the project was and how we did at the state level and where we're at, it's pretty neat.
All right, getting the kids totally involved in things is our #1 goal this year. Wilton has always been strong with state fair. Last year we had 25 students show at the state fair. Where I came from, up in Macokota, if I had 6 kids at the state fair, that was a lot. So we really got involved in a lot of other things, because all the kids up there went for 4-H, because Grandma and Grandpa showed 4-H, Mom and Dad showed 4-H, I'm showing 4-H. I always told the students, I don't care if you're wearing blue and yellow or green and white, be in the ring, enjoy the fair, because there's a lot of things other than the animals there. And the friends you meet, the family you meet, that's why they keep going. But we weren't real involved in the fair, but there's so many things in the FFA you can do. And the goal is, in an ag class, I don't care if you go out to become an employee in agriculture, which is very easy to do right now. They can't find enough people to work. My crops class was looking on just plant-type jobs, working agronomy. And we brought up ag careers, and we looked at just Iowa, and there were over 800 jobs listed on ag careers, and another 270 listed by recruiters. So almost 1,000 jobs just in agronomy for Iowa this time of year. Now, a lot of those might be driving interrogators or doing things like that, but I don't think it's 1,000 of those. There's jobs out there for the students, but they need to be exposed to them. The biggest thing to expose people to is opening your eyes to new things. Samsung runs a project, a contest called Solve for Tomorrow. They want you to use STEM, the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math, so it's now called STEAM. Coming up with a new idea that can be something out there. We picked the safety category. What you do is you write up a proposal of here's what we would do. You submit it to Samsung. If you're made the state winner, then you develop your project and make a video, which we're going to share with you in a second, about your project. Ours was to come up with a sign that would run off of a sensor that would be mounted on the back of farm equipment, because people are distracted as they're driving. They come up on a big wagon, they see the flashing lights or a big planter or whatever it is, and they don't slow down, they're like, whatever. They're so distracted, they see it, and then they just move on. The idea is that this would be hooked to a sensor that would register the car coming, and this is usually a lot brighter, but our battery's kind of getting low, and the lights on the outside would be very bright, but they would come on and flash. This would come on, you can kind of see it when we bring up the video. It would kind of warn them to slow down. But it would only come on when it sensed the car coming at it, so then they'd go, oh, okay, we better pay attention to something. The second part of our design is a sensor on the side of the vehicle that tells the farmer there's a vehicle passing you. And he would hear that in the cab, and it's pretty easy with all the sensors out there today to do that. In our research, the Kinsey makes a wagon that will hold 1,500 bushels. Of course, a semi can hold 1,000 legally during the fall when they're running down the road. You get the big John Deere tractor and the big Kinsey wagon, they're over 65 feet in length when they're hooked together, which is the length of a semi. So people need to be aware of what they're passing, how big it is, and the farmer, if it's night, he might see the headlights, but in the daytime, he doesn't have a clue, and he may be making a left turn into a field, and he's turned on his turn signal, that car's already around him, and then we have a problem. So this lets him know someone's coming. We designed this, the students then, we kind of came up with everything, we learned an awful lot. It's all wired, as you can see our wires everywhere, but we use the LED rope wire here, but everywhere we cut it, we had to make a new connection. We had to get the connections off of Amazon, but we got everything connected. Everything's hooked together. The lights are on switches so we can show that. They bent the metal. They did all the wiring, cut everything up. They did all the work, and then they made a 3-minute video that we submitted to Samsung because we were the state winners. And by being state winners, we've got $25,000 worth of computers and other things coming to us from Samsung. They just put it all in a box and send it to us so we don't really get to pick. Had we made the top 10, then we would have got to go to Washington, D.C. and sold our idea to the judges, would have given us $25,000 more dollars, and we would have been in the running for $150,000. These guys were part of the team. You'll see them in the video. Braden Vanderboord also did it, but he's homesick today, so he's not here tonight. But our goal is after we found out we didn't make the top 10, the team's #1 line was, can we get started on next year now? So there's kind of a drive there that we want to be able to make that top list. It turned out really good, but as you'll see in the video, we went over to John Deere, and we wanted to put it on the big wagons and show what it would look like, but that was right after all of our snowstorm, and we couldn't get to the wagons because they plowed all their snow around the wagons. So we put it on the back of one of the planters, and it was really interesting because there were a lot of farmers in there, of course, drinking coffee and watching us. And one of their comments was, why didn't you use different lights? Well, that's one thing we learned in our research. You can only use the amber lights in the back of the vehicle. It would have been nice to use some different colored lights maybe to draw attention, but the DOT does not allow that. They did like the idea, different people we've talked to, and one thing we're looking at is possibly getting a hold of John Deere or Kinsey or somebody like that and seeing if they want to partner with us to take this to the next step. But they did a great job. We do have the 3-minute video. We were allowed 3 minutes to tell people how we came up with the idea, why we came up with the idea, all the work we did to get the idea there, and how we were going to affect our community with the idea. And they said 3 minutes or less, which makes it a lot of work to make that happen. But the team did all this. They had to do the editing. They put everything together, they did the narration, and we felt it turned out pretty good.
Agriculture is a big business in Iowa. There are over 30 million acres of farm ground operated by 88,000 farmers. They annually raise 3.3 billion bushels of corn and soybeans.
While Iowa is an agriculture state, the fact remains that only 2% of its population are farmers. This means that the daily commuters traveling Iowa's roadways are unaware of the actual size and slow speed of many farm vehicles, making their daily commute extremely dangerous. To securely store the harvest, farmers will drive slow-moving, extremely large farm equipment over some of the 114,000 miles of Iowa's public roadways. The sheer size of farm equipment traveling our roadways deceives approaching vehicles into believing they are approaching fast-moving equipment, which can result in a deadly accident.
Data from the Iowa Department of Transportation showed there were 1,947 crashes between farm equipment and automobiles between 2004 and 2013, resulting in 1,076 injuries and 72 deaths.
My classmate.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good picture to stop on. That's the Graves tractor in the creek in their wagon.
you doing? Bill, did you break my computer?
Good thing we got $25,000 worth coming to us.
Yeah.
This was buffering, I think.
If it's buffering. We put this in to show how it was a local concern. One of our students was hit. Then we showed the students building it and just gave them some more data. We felt it turned out really good. We were really excited. We're going to say we finished 11th and they only picked 10. But they did do an excellent job. And the neat thing is they said, what can we do for next year? And that's the goal. Tomorrow I'm taking students to the Envirothon, which is the outdoor contest of wildlife, aquatic soils, and forestry. And I've got 5 girls going that have been studying and practicing really hard. It's a regional contest. The top 15 get to go on to state. We're hoping to do well. I've got students right now practicing for the Ag Communications Contest, the biotech, and the poultry judging, which will be in April. I've got students practicing for the vet science, which is in May. We've got students who want to do the horse judging, the floriculture contest in June, and then there'll be crop scouting in July, livestock, meats, and dairy food products in August, and then dairy cattle in September. We've got kids signed up. The excitement is really fun. I've got right now 25 students signed up to have livestock on the farm this year. The more the merrier, because that's more to help each other. And I've told them all, if you're in sports, softball, baseball, that's fine. You need to work with someone to say, I'll do your chores in the morning, well, at night, you do mine in the morning, working together, things like that. We're going to have hogs, sheep, goats, and poultry at the farm this year. The kids are working hard at getting everything set up, and it's just kind of it's really neat to see the enthusiasm of the kids and what they want to do. And it is their farm, it is their livestock, that they're going to care for, and it's that ownership thing we're building into them. And so it's running pretty fast and furious right now. The video looks like even our tech guy can't figure it out.
Come on, Justin.
I'm blaming WeVideo, so.
Okay,
we've
we'll
had
blame
other
somebody,
issues.
but I'll make sure that this is available if you'd ever like to see it again and all that good stuff. We'll put it on YouTube or whatever, but it was a neat thing that the students did. You guys want to add stuff of what you went through and your thoughts?
Oh, it took a lot of time.
Overnight after school, coming on Saturdays, a couple days.
Playing with equipment that we found in the shop that we've never seen used before and learn how to use that.
Even the shop teacher was glad that we got this, we decided to do this, because he'd seen stuff that he had never even used. So we got his mind clean too.
How do you attach it, Kyle?
Cash flow.
How does that get attached to the wagon or whatnot? Is it
We're
be
gonna
screwed
have
on?
clamps. Not sure we're gonna be set, but it'll be clamped on to like handrails, like on a planter.
I mean, the ideas were, it could be one that could be put onto a wagon and put on a different piece of equipment so the farmer could have more than one, or built-in permanent just like the lights. One of the pictures we showed of the great big black wagon that's over at Durant, it had 2 red tail lights and 2 yellow lights, and it was black. And that was all the more lighting it had on. And I don't even think there was a slow-moving vehicle on the back of that one. Any vehicle going over 25 miles an hour can't have one on there. I don't think that a full wagon like that's going to go over 25 down the road. That's the other thing people don't realize. So the kids learned a lot. Snow day they were in here because we could work, and that Saturday they were in here, and we got everything put together and got it submitted in time. It was a lot of work. We learned a lot of things, and that's, I think, the #1 goal. So next year, who knows what we'll be able to do.
Classmate of ours was part of these statistics as one of their tractors and grain wagons was struck by a grain semi, knocking the tractor completely off a bridge and causing the semi to burst into flames. Luckily, the injuries were minor and the costs were major.
Our research pointed out that distracted drivers were the #1 cause of these accidents. Our goal was to design a warning system that alerted drivers of slow-moving farm equipment.
Researching systems currently being used showed insignificant warning systems. In most cases, small taillights and a small reflective slow-moving vehicle sign were all that were being used. Our team determined that an alert system activated by an approaching driver would be the best system to alert both the attentive and distracted drivers.
Using a CAD program, we designed a sensor-activated light system that will only come on when it senses an approaching vehicle. Outside lights will flash for 20 seconds to alert the driver of a slow-moving vehicle, while the inside lights spelling out "slow down" will remain on until the vehicle is no longer following the equipment.
Our system will also outfit farm equipment with a side sensor to alert the farm implement driver that a vehicle is passing them.
Our team developed and used skills in welding, soldering, metal, fabrication, electricity, and sensor technology in building our prototype. We have shared our ideas with farmers, equipment manufacturers, and transportation enforcement officials, and are currently learning about the process involved in patenting our design, as many manufacturers have shown a strong interest in incorporating our design into their equipment.
As we evaluate our prototype, we are refining our design and determining the best way to manufacture these at an affordable price to meet our local community demand.
That's what it would have looked like if our battery was alive, but it was a neat
Really
thing, and we're looking forward to next year when we can bring in about 50 to 150,000, and it's we're waiting to on Thursday. We'll find out. We've applied for a grant through the National Egg Foundation, the Incredible Edible Egg. We've applied for $2,000 to help remodel the poultry building at the farm. We did receive $4,800 from Pioneer for CASE equipment, the Curriculum for Ag Science Education, so I can buy sensors and materials to teach those classes that I teach. Pioneer's approached us now after we've got some work done on the farm. They would like to put in a Pioneer test plot out there. ECALB, I think, wants to do the same thing. We've got some other companies that would like to put some numbers out there. So things are really moving forward, and the only reason it's moving forward is, just like these guys said, it's a lot of work, and they've been here evenings and weekends and putting in a lot of time, and if the students weren't doing it, it's not going to get done, because I'm old and I don't have time. But they've done a great job, and their enthusiasm is bleeding over to the other students. They're seeing it, and of course, when we got this all done and displayed it in the classroom, then a lot of other students were like, well, what do I need to do to get involved in this? Well, you've had opportunity the whole time to work on it, and once they saw the final project, we'll have a lot of them that want to get involved next year. So it's just a neat thing, and we're making progress.
All right, does the board have any questions? I like it.
What are you thinking about it for next year?
Thought like far ahead before you.
They have like 20 different categories you can enter. We entered ours in safety. You can do an agriculture one. We're looking at what might be there. What they're looking for is what's that new design. I looked at some of the videos that were posted. They posted the top 10 videos, and the one from California, they were doing a sprinkler system for the sides and roofs of houses to stop the wildfires. And I thought, well, you better have a really good sprinkler system, because some of those wildfires were pretty crazy. And I thought that beat out this, which was even more to me of all the public involved. And there's just some other ones. So one that I saw a couple of years ago that I thought was really unique was a group had developed lights with a sensor that went on top of a fence post along the road where deer crossed a lot. And when the deer would go across, jump the fence or whatever, it'd light up all the fence posts. And it would warn the driver if there's lights on, there's probably a deer around coming out of the ditch or something.
Yeah.
They were powered by solar, and I thought that was a neat idea, but of course, I used to drive an hour one way every day, and there was a certain spot I'd go really slow because it was Deer Alley, and there were always a lot of deer. So that was neat. I think this is good, and yeah, we want to patent it, and then I can sit back and retire on all the money. We do want to do something. So we'll come up with an idea and share that with you next year, hopefully with these guys getting ready to go present the idea in DC.
Sweet.
All right, well, thanks for coming. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
it.
Love it.
Bring that
Yay.
up.
Good job. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, Mr. Meyer,
Thank you, sir. Yep, no problem.
you're next.
You want them to pull up anything, Mr. Meyer? Do you?
I don't know what
I think we have that.
slide it is. There is an update to it, so I'll give you a hard copy
Oh.
of that.
Okay.
Thursday, I had to get it submitted to Joy so she could send that out to you guys, and I'd sent a bid request out for one of our math changes that we're doing. So that came back today, so that's on there. It's been a little while since we've gone through kind of curriculum purchase. We've kind of purposely drug our feet a little bit. Social studies is kind of the next big thing for us to adopt, and Iowa had been going through the process of redoing their social studies standards for the Iowa Core, so I've kind of been pushing that off a little bit. So I bumped health up, so health is getting done a little bit earlier, and so Spanish, you saw those on here as well. And then we've done a little work with math this year. Elizabeth Follett's coming back full-time this year. She teaches on B.A. Day. I don't remember which day. She teaches one of the days. Is it A Day or B Day?
It was A, so she's here now.
So she'll be here full-time next year, so we had to add a few courses to that. And a little bit of that work that you'll see on here is some of the stuff that we've had from David Ford, who comes out from the AEA. He does a lot of stuff with college and career ready. So the kids that graduate from us, their student ID number follows them to college. And he sees how soon they enroll in college. And then he sees the kinds of coursework they have to take with that. They have to take a lot of remedial classes in math or in English. And not just Wilton, but in the state, they're showing a gap with kids in math. They get their math credits in early. You have to take 3 if you do it freshman, sophomore, and junior year. You don't take math your senior year. But you get to college, and if you can't clap out anything, you got to take math again. And the kids are having that gap in there, and it's showing some deficiency. So we think we've built in a little bit with our financial algebra that you see there with that. And then the college algebra sounds a little scary, but it will still deal with a lot of algebra stuff. It'll have some trig components in it, some calc components in it. And this is that offering. We want to get some of those kids to keep taking math their senior year, but you're not scared by calc or statistics, or some of those classes you think, wow, those are going to be too hard. We feel like we're building a few of these classes in here to keep those kids taking math classes, so when they go on to college, they're successful there with math. Health there, that's Mr. Hetzler's health stuff, and you'll notice most of the things on here are digital anymore. The kids' textbooks are mostly digital now, so the components are the bundling packages that are on there. The Spanish one we haven't got a quote for. Typically, the companies offer you a 6-year license because they know that your school is on a 7-year cycle. So then you're going to have to buy the extra year. So I've asked all the companies just to submit to me a 7-year proposal. That one hasn't come back to me yet. All the rest of them have. He's been kind of dragging his feet a little bit with that on there. So total bill for what I'm asking for tonight, what you guys approve in the consent agenda, will be $12,766. And I've talked to Stacy, and she feels that's something we can already purchase, that we've already got ISP money for that to take care of. The one on the second page there, you see a character leadership class. Part of our skinnies is always trying to be those unique classes a little bit. And most of you are familiar with Ed Thomas. One of his, Ed Kearns, I think is his name. Al Kearns has developed, or is a part of a character leadership class. And we have a student leadership class that Deb Norton does, but this is more about personal leadership, about how you grow those people to be individual leaders. Deb's class is about how we can show leadership as students and do things, if there's a hurricane and we're going to raise funds for that. This is a little bit more of a class that's dealt with more personalization. It's actually Ryan Hetzler brought this to us. And I know Mr. Snavely has seen this in action as well. So that'll be a new purchase on there as well. For that Spanish, I'll bring that to you. I hope to have that by the April board meeting. I bothered this guy enough, I think, with that. But that'll come up in your consent agenda a little bit later. Any questions about that? Perfect. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. I started golf practice.
Yeah. It's a little cold out there tonight.
Yeah.
Hey, well, we've got Joe Raggets here. If you wouldn't mind to skip to a couple of the bids under the individual consent agenda.
Okay.
Well, actually, it's not a consent, just the individual
Not individual
items.
action.
With the bleacher bids and concrete bids, I thought with having Joe here, we had a maintenance committee meeting last week and going over budgets and projects and whatnot for the remainder of this year, but also next year. And one of the areas we wanted to improve is our visitor track and football bleachers on the east side. And we've got 2 bids, one being the bleachers and one being concrete work. Joe doesn't have it in front of them, but can you pull up the
Bleacher bid.
bleacher bid first?
Page 33.
All right. The two bids, you can see there's one for 28,300 and one for 32,440. Joe, do you want to talk about any of these? One of them has 10 rows, the other one has 12 rows.
Both.
I'm saying that's the difference in the, is that the?
There's 10 rows, on one of them has a 10
Right, that's what I'm going with that, because Joe and I originally talked about these bids. We
Yeah.
thought the difference of 2 rows
Yeah.
over the lifespan of it for that $4,000 is worth it. We'll be able to seat over 400 people with these bleachers, but we thought big picture, long-term, $4,000 to have 2 more rows, 10 versus 12. That's why you see the 2 bids there.
And these will also have, it'll all be safety guys, so we'll have railings, they'll all be up to
ready.
snuff on, one we have out there now, you know, you have the back that we just kind of put on ourselves with the words and what have you. These will all be safety, so we're under code, we'll be in good shape, and they'll last for years and years.
Good.
And you can see with the 2 bids between Iowa Direct and the first company being Seating and Athletic Facility Enterprises, our recommendation will be to go with Iowa Direct because for 12-row bleachers, same spec, is $28,288. So I know it's a little confusing going back and forth with the bids, but that's the rationale behind it. Rob, do you have a question?
It's 29,288.
What did I say?
28.
Oh, excuse me, 29,288, yes.
I see the other one's got handicap spaces.
No, neither one will.
Doesn't-
We don't need handicap
Okay,
spaces.
well, that's why when I see one's got it on the quote.
But neither one of them
Okay.
will. Yeah, neither one of them will have the handicap, because we have the handicap deck, and if we, to redo where we're gonna put them, where they sit on the other side, you got cement that sits up there, you got that little bit of a hill. We're looking to put concrete from where the double gate is. From there, we'll have an 8-foot sidewalk that'll walk all the way out to that. There'll be concrete all in front, there'll be a little retaining wall. There'll be a set of steps that will walk you up to that with a railing in front of it, so you won't be able to get a handicap. And we have the handicap on the other side with the deck, so we really don't need that. And this will give a nice cement way for everyone to get there, so they're not walking in grass and not walking in ruts or any of that type of stuff. And it'll really make our field look so much nicer. And that they'll all be, good backs on them, they'll all be, nobody's gonna fall through them, we'll be in good shape.
It'll be much improved.
Similar, it'll look basically like the ones at the baseball field now, the new ones at the baseball field. So,
Yeah, by putting the concrete, and Joe and I had those conversations too, if you go to the concrete bid, it's gonna be an 8-foot strip. You know, so anybody that walks from the concession stand over to the bleachers, you know, on that 8-foot strip there, it's really just gonna be nice.
It'll be nice.
Mud perspective from just a cleanliness perspective.
Yep. Good.
And where people stand, you know, look how many people stand along our side too. So to tie into that, one of our maintenance projects and working with Don Drake and Roger Grunder, we're looking at they call it the fabric, which we were joking about, they call fencing fabric. But refabricating the entire fence with new wire, and part of that having a bottom pole or rail, so to keep it from curling. So,
the other thing added, we talked the other day, Mark and I talked to Don, they're gonna lower it to 42 inches on a fence to make it shorter, and then the bleachers that are there, we have all the aluminum bleachers that are there, all those deckings and everything. Like they did up the baseball field, they put some along the top so people could set a drink on or whatever. So on this side, we will have all that along there, so when people stand on our side, and we can put some on the other side in front of some of that. We have the aluminum.
You're gonna use the whole bleachers to build those, right?
Yeah, because all those old bleachers, all that metal is all good metal, so we'll reuse that on that, and that'll put it a little lower for people, and it'll give a place for somebody to set their pop and what have you.
that's what's neat. I'll tell you, we're so blessed to have Don and Roger and the whole crew of people that just make it extra. You know, to have those little things, that's what sets us apart. So kudos to everyone involved with that, but just so, that's how everything's tying together. It's not just one project, it's like how does the whole complex get improved? So with the concrete bids, there's two of them, be on the next page. We have one from All American Concrete, and their bid's $25,394.50, and Hoekstra Masonry is at $19,171. So I'd recommend the Hoekstra Masonry bid. It's a win-win, it's the lowest bid, and it's local. So those are the two bids we have for each of those, number one, number two, under those individual action items. Other questions on that? You know, I guess just to piggyback on that, again, we had our maintenance committee meeting, but we've got a really busy summer planned, and every year I always marvel at the list of things and what we've accomplished since 2005, and this year will be no different. The one thing we did note, though, our list is significantly shorter than it used to be, but some of the items we have are more expensive. Fewer projects, larger costs, but
one thing that's not noted on there too, just to give you a heads up, we've already started banking money for new light poles out there.
Oh.
And if you look out there, we don't know that right now, but there is a light pole that'll be in that cement. So we'll make sure that we leave room, because a new one will have a cement column that'll come up, and then the light pole sits on top of that. So that will make sure, but that's the only place you're gonna have to walk around something. But right now we got the old pole, but we'll make sure that when we put the new pole in, that'll all get fixed. So that'll be incorporated into it when we do this.
I think I attached a spreadsheet to one of the emails I sent you. So if you go back and look, you can see what we'd talked about. So, otherwise, are there any questions on those two action items with that?
No, sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, very good. Thanks for
Thank you,
coming, Joe.
Yep. All right. Business financial functions, Miss Stacy.
Number 7 is a taxation fund financial reports. Anything big to point out? Trying to get the bond construction fund completed with some projects over spring break. And what's left in Fund 34 with the revenue bonds, that $6,700, both of those, trying to get those spent down to zero by the end of this fiscal year. Any questions or comments on any of the taxation funds? Number 8 is instructional support levy program. With our revenues at the top, our budget in the middle of the first page, and what we've spent at the bottom of the page, and what remains to be spent at the top of the second page. That's where we're at there. That's always spent down to zero by the end of the fiscal year. Any questions or comments? Self-insurance fund, number 9. The fund breakdown in the lower left-hand corner between medical, dental, and vision. Next month, we'll bring the rates for next year to you that we're going to be using in negotiations, but bring those rates for approval. Any questions or comments on our medical, dental, and vision self-funded accounts? Latchkey. The top, the usage for the before and after school programs. Number went up by 1, but everything is, there's some movement within the groups, but continues to be profitable for our month revenues, higher than our expenditures, so that balance this year started out at a little less than 20,000, and it's almost up to 40,000. So the usage has increased, and she's expecting, when I met with her for our budget for next year, she's expecting an increase in the summer program also from last year.
Great.
So, following that, number 11 is a period vendor report for Latchkey for anything that was spent besides payroll. Nutrition, number 12. First page is the program usage with lunch and breakfast for the month and the year-to-date, which is school year-to-date. Second page is financials, and that balance remains healthy. As I mention every year, that fund does have to pay for 3 months of salaries in June, but there will be plenty there for that. Any questions or comments? 13 is a period vendor report for nutrition fund, and again, anything that's not payroll. How money was spent from that fund during the month of February. Number 14, first page, activity fund. And well, first of all, the music and the athletics in the far right-hand column, so the summaries of all of those accounts, balances there, which are both very healthy. Then the negatives would be for drama and speech after the one-act plays. The expenses and revenues for that, it's in the hole, but she has worked, that program has worked several concession stands, so hopefully when winter concessions are divided up this month, that will alleviate that deficit. And then robotics, same thing, he has also worked concession stands, so hopefully that deficit will be consumed by concession stand profits from winter. And then again, at the bottom, spring and summer canteens are in the hole because they haven't started yet. So, and the winter canteen, like I just mentioned, will be divided out this month after Joy has gotten all the expenses, and then that should be seen on the March report. Second page, the FFA Enterprise with the Hogs Farm, Sheep, and Greenhouse, and our on-site flex spending plan that we keep in our own bank, and then the agency fund. Agency fund, you'll see a few new things in there. We have the softball dugout account now for the fundraiser that they just did. And what else did we just add in here? The observatory project for funds that are being, donations that are being directly made to the school and not through the PayPal account. And then there were several things transpired that initiated us contacting the two offices and having their staff office accounts moved to the agency fund, so that no one was responsible for the money as an employee, and that they, if it's in our agency fund, they can use our federal ID number for tax exempt. There were some vendors that wanted to start charging tax on some different things. So you see the elementary staff, the elementary sunshine, and the junior senior staff now in the agency fund. So those are pretty much, I think, the new things that we added in there. And again, agency fund is money that the school does the accounting for, but we don't technically own the money, not our money. Any questions on any of those? And then period vendor reports to follow for all of those accounts. And these are always lengthy. 3 pages. And a very active activity fund. Any questions or comments on any of the period vendor reports? 16, co-curricular driving. This is a short one. It would have been really short without the classroom activities. And then the Special Olympic bus use under other, that's totally reimbursed, including mileage and the total cost of the driver. Any questions or comments on co-curricular for February-March pay period? And then number 17, the extra payroll. Anything that's not in a contract that's presented to me for payment goes on this list. Any questions on any of the extra payroll expenses for March? Hearing none, and 18, the board bills. And for March, pretty lengthy, and that would be due to the benefit of the Townsend funds that all of our teachers have been spending the last couple months. It's 12, all the general fund bills, and then we do have a few from the 1 cent sales tax, as well as our annual fees for Piper Jaffray for taking care of the GEO bond and the revenue bond dissemination information to the feds. Any questions on any of the bills presented for payment? It's been wonderful having each teacher be able to spend $300 additional, but it's been like summer requisitions in our
Yes,
office
busy.
already.
I'm cracking up at the sock monkey
I
nameplates.
know, and stuff.
Stress buddy.
That is hilarious. UPS likes you too, though.
Actually, they don't. We keep telling them it's job security, but they don't like that so much.
It's always the summer, not the winter maybe they didn't like delivering it. Oh, wow.
Move to approve the bills.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Stacy. All right, administrative reports. I have elementary. First, Mrs. Austin, please.
Who's go first?
Whoever puts, yeah.
Okay. No. You can see my report. The only things I really wanted to highlight, again, we appreciate everyone's effort at parent-teacher conferences. We're already over 95%, and the teachers plan to make up those that either they weren't able to schedule or for whatever reason didn't happen. So I do appreciate everybody's response to that. There's a little bit of a change. We're going to move up our timeline for our Title I position. We have several very qualified applicants, and I was planning to wait till after spring break, but I don't want to lose anyone. And it's not my position, so we're going to try to get that done before spring break. At the bottom, the Leader in Me surveys, we've sent out links to parents, all parents. We've asked to complete them, and then the staff will complete a different link, and students in grades 4 through 6 to kind of measure where we are and where our needs are, and if we're getting the right messages across, and that's being shown in our data. And then our upcoming dates, we start swimming on Thursday, which is a big day.
Yes, women.
And it does truly highlight, I think, how lucky we are that we have that pool as a facility, because it really is a great experience for our kids. And, yeah, really, that's about it. Everything else is on there. Anybody have any questions?
What's our new kindergarten numbers off the top of your head as of right now?
Oh, I know that too. 50, I'm not sure. 55? We're about where we usually are.
Yeah, so I thought so. I
Yeah.
thought we were in the 50s, so.
Good.
55 or 58, I think. No, we always add.
Oh, absolutely.
It hasn't even.
Oh, very good.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Austin. Mr. Snavely.
Yeah, just a few highlights on my junior-senior high report. Last weekend was a big weekend with lots of things going on. In the second paragraph, you'll see we had state speech, we had SEIBA band at Durant, we had Scholastic Bowl, lots of stuff going on there. So busy kind of in between seasons where all the fine arts takes place. Last Monday night we had NHS, so we inducted the new members that night, had a meal with that. Eric Grenner was our guest speaker, so it was a great night. I did include all of my attendance numbers. You can see they're fairly consistent with the fall. They do fall off a little bit in the spring, but they are not 95%. If we could find a way to get those up. I know if I could solve that problem, I would be able to write a book and probably retire, because it's at the secondary level, it's just more of a challenge. I don't know what, I don't know what we can really do to make it better, but we're constantly trying to think of those things to make it better. So I did include Mrs. Hetzler's 9th grade, that extra English class that we have. Those students were in earlier. I didn't supply the data to you yet, so I did put that in there just to show the progress they're making. And then there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there that I'm not going to highlight necessarily, but if you have questions, I'll answer them. And then before I take questions, our hiring timeline, we have all of our jobs posted on Teach Iowa right now, and there's some coaching that goes with it. They're still coming in, so we plan to interview the first week in April, and I actually have those dates set, and we'll go through all the applications and get those interviews and everything set up. And then the media center manager, we need to go ahead and advertise that locally, so that'll be that following week. Joy's going to get that in the Advocate news and get that out there. So April will be a big push to get all those positions filled that we need to fill for next year. So before I do the athletic report, is any questions about anything that I have listed in there? I know there's quite a bit of stuff going on right now.
Very fortunate with the national conference participation, due to the Townsend Foundation. Mrs. Austin and a crew that went down to New Orleans here 2 weeks ago, give or take a little bit. Mr. Snavely, the group's going out to Boston here, you can see, and then a couple of weeks over spring break are part of that. So
Cool.
I'll tell you, for a school our size, things that we're allowed to do is pretty impressive.
Yeah, that's next Friday already.
Yeah. Well, it isn't over spring break then, is it?
Well,
I think it
we leave the Friday before spring break, yeah.
Yeah, a week from Friday.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Any questions about anything in there? Athletic-wise, as you know, we've wrapped up, wrestling season and basketball and things like that. So I just put a little recap in there. Right now, we're starting our spring sports. So I did list kind of where I think the numbers are right now. It is early, so they are going to fluctuate a little bit. We have 3 track meets that we're hosting this year on April 9th, 17th, and 26th. So those are kind of the big events coming up. Any questions about athletics? Right now, it's not a whole lot going on. So. All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right. We will move on to action items.
You bet.
Consent
Rock and
agenda
roll here.
number 1.
This time of year, we have personnel changes. You can see A, B, C, and D. Mr. Mark Patterson, the varsity boys basketball. Deb Norton, in her official retirement letter, did not include student council. Therefore, we have to bring it back because that's all inclusive. Leslie Skelly, unfortunately, is going to be moving, and so that's her resignation there. And Nate Kroger with assistant varsity football. So those are the 4 under resignations. Unfortunately, Mr. Kroger's not leaving us as a teacher. Number 2, transfers. Miss Grace Bentley, 3rd grade teacher from junior high science. That's one of the positions we're advertising. She did her student teaching at the elementary lower levels, so that's really a good fit for her.
Good.
Under job descriptions, technology director, I sent that to Bo, and we updated that. Of all the job descriptions we review, I think technology director is the one that's the most in flux, just because of how fast technology changes and what the responsibilities are. So those are the changes under consent agenda number 1, personnel-wise, resignations, transfer, and job descriptions that I have this month.
Motion to approve consent agenda number 1.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Policy.
Policy. Hey, this is going to be unusual, but I have no recommendations for tweaks in going through these.
Good.
Interestingly, 504.6, that's student fundraising. We did update recently as far as collecting money before
Yes.
there's orders taken. So that was updated not too long ago. Mr. Stave and I had a conversation about the student publications and the publications code, with our student newspaper. Ultimately, that paper represents us as school, and as much as we want to give the freedom of speech with the students, if there's things in there that we believe, so that's our role administratively to work with the teacher and the students on that. So we just had a conversation about that last week. You see the promotion, retention, acceleration piece in there too. you know, unfortunately, if we're in a situation where a student might need to repeat a grade, or if we have someone like Noah Brown here that's gifted and can move up a grade, it talks about that in there as well.
Good.
Noah last weekend was on the Scholastic Bowl trip, so went pretty well, didn't it? You guys were close.
Yeah, we were close.
You want to give them just a quick update on your Scholastic Bowl, where it was at, and
It was at Des Moines and
Grandview.
yeah, Grandview.
Oh, Grandview College, cool.
We went there, well, it was supposed to be 2 weeks ago, but it was canceled due to the weather. And so we went there, and the top 2 people got to go on TV to go with the top 2 people from other regional places around the state. And like, if we would have won one more, we would have had a chance to get on it, so
Cool.
we were close.
and Ms. Hetzler said they were right there.
Right.
So
Darn it.
kudos to you guys. What time? Normally you leave, what time in the morning for these events?
Like 5:15.
AM.
Yeah.
For teenagers, that really doesn't fit into their biological clocks very well. But,
You got on, what, 4:30?
Yeah, about.
yeah. So pretty impressive. That's the work they do,
Yes,
so.
that's great.
Noah, you represented us well. You'll be missed. Ms. Hetzler was saying that this morning in the hallway, how much you're going to be missed as a part of that team. So, give you anybody that shows up at the board meeting, we'll give them some
Well,
kudos.
yes, good job.
So anyway, that's it under consent agenda number 2.
Move to approve consent agenda 2.
Second.
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed, motion carries. Consent agenda number 3.
Numbers 1 and 2, in the past, there used to be a hard copy that you would see in the packet, but now everything is done electronically.
Okay.
So 2080 agreement with Durant's bowling team,
Mm-hmm.
which made it to state this year.
Yes.
Number 2, 2080 with Muscatine with swimming, tennis, and soccer. We may or may not have students that participate, but we do. We got the agreement in place.
Yep.
Number 3 through 6 are second readings of policies we've discussed last month. First one being the disposition of obsolete equipment that we talked about. Number 4 is the 405.4 licensed employee continuing contracts. Number 5 is that 405.6 licensed employee assignment. And then number 6 was number 405.9 licensed employee probationary status to meet the state code. Those were the rationale on those. And if you want to take a second to look back at some of the verbiage, you know, certainly I'm not trying to rush through it. Number 7 is student teaching agreement with UNI. You're going to see a couple of those this spring. We usually do one with Iowa Wesleyan, sometimes, you know, St. Ambrose University, University of Iowa as well. So those are just agreements to allow them to place student teachers here. And number 8 was what Mr. Meyer gave you with the totals there on the handout as presented.
Yep.
If I'm reading that correctly, the total approval was at 12,766.23. So, take your time. If there's anything you want to look through a little more in depth, I can answer any questions on any of those if you'd like.
Move to approve consent agenda number 3.
A second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Individual action items.
As discussed earlier, number 1 are bleacher bids. My recommendation is Iowa Direct at $29,288 as presented.
Move to approve the bid from Iowa Direct for the bleachers.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. All right.
Yeah, the second one's the concrete bids. My recommendation is Hoekstra Masonry at $19,171 as outlined.
Move to approve the bid for Hoekstra Masonry.
Second?
All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Very good. Under the information discussion items, we have 2 hirings in this last period. Number 1, Allison Boston for junior high softball. The reason her salary is determined is because we go under this year's master contract. And with Mr. Grunder under High School Student Council, we have yet to settle that for number 1 and number 2. So those are the 2 hirings that were made since the February board meeting. Like I said, you'll see several of those hopefully at the April board meeting. Under the maintenance, I don't know if Joe wants to add anything else, but we had the discussion earlier. Anything else to add, Joe? I don't want to prolong it if we don't have to.
I mean, we got boiler, we put that in the paper for boilers, so that's in the paper, and they're hoping to have bids sometime at the end of this month to get opened up. We also took the boilers. One of the things we did do for the boards, we got talking Gary and them on it, but the boilers they had recommended were a cheaper boiler. They're a 10-year throwaway boiler, and I said we don't want boilers that you're going to throw away in 10 years. So I have a man that I talked to that deals with boilers, and he gave us some names of better boilers, and they're easier to work on. They're not stuck with that company having to get the parts from, so anybody can work on them. And so we're going with them, so they're going to be a little higher price. The original they came up with was around $200,000 or somewhere in there that he gave us a perspective of what it cost, and we had around $400,000. It won't be more than that $400,000, but we'll get a boiler that will last 20, 30 years in comparison to what they were trying to put in. They're heavier duty, they're a better boiler. But that should be sometime the end of this month that we will have bids, and from what I was told by the man that's doing all of our stuff for us and laying out and drawing it out. We've got a number of people that are real interested both in the control part of it and in bidding of putting the boilers in. So we have a number of people that are interested, so that's good. We're getting quite a few, which should help us on our price too. So,
is it safe to say, I mean, it sounded like sometime in the next 2 weeks they're going to have that collected, but we should be able to get that approved at our April board meeting and get on the docket for the summer. So.
But yeah, so it's moving right along. Other than that, we've got other things that are coming up that we've already approved, like the roof going over the weight room and so on. That's going to be done first part of May. So we've got a lot of things already approved, and they're all going to start hitting us real quick here. So we'll move along.
Yep. No, it's exciting. It really is. I mean, kudos to the maintenance committee too. I've said this before. I'm not blowing smoke. I don't know how we would have done what we've done all these years without having a subcommittee like the maintenance committee to brainstorm and just collectively improve the facility. So, let's see. Pool board. Is there anything pool board related? Anything coming up from a facilities or maintenance request or anything you think of?
There is one that'll happen, and that's that roof we get done.
Correct.
That's the only thing that I.
And, yeah, and I think we mentioned that last month.
And that's already been approved.
Yep, yep. But yeah.
Okay. Legislatively, I attended the forum on Saturday at the community center, or community room, and the governor signed the 1% SSA. The big thing still to come is to approve the 1 cent sales tax, continue that for another 20 years. And so I think that should be done here in the next week, 10 days. Let's hope that does occur. All these projects we've done would not have occurred without it. Otherwise, a lot of debate about gun control. I was asked on the spot, what's my opinion on it in schools? There was some tense discussion there between the right and the left on Second Amendment and whatnot. So
it's a hot topic.
Absolutely it is.
Greatly so.
Absolutely it is. So, anyway, with that, I have nothing but goodwill. Teacher appreciation week will be coming up in May. So, we could do something this year with that. Really nothing on our miscellaneous dates to remember. We have our IDB session tomorrow night at 5 in here. And once we're done with that session, we go over all the other staff. You know, we usually meet in the office and talk about all the other positions. That'd be great.
I was actually wondering after this if we couldn't have a short exempt meeting to go over what I showed you. If I keep going and they want something different, then I've wasted a lot of time.
That's fine.
Correct.
So stick around for hopefully, Stacey can run, or bring that sheet in here if you want, or we go my office, whatever.
Yeah, whichever I want to do.
Did the school calendar nonsense come
Oh,
up in
yeah.
that?
I asked about that, and that's still in limbo.
Such a simple fix.
I know, just do it.
Common sense is not usually at the beginning of the agenda or at the end.
Or anywhere in between.
So good question. I did bring that up to Bobby, and they think they were both in favor of it, but whether it gets done is something.
And operational sharing was moving along, right, with the additional social worker.
Yeah, the operational sharing is moving forward, which is a major positive, and they include social worker. And I've already mentioned that before work sessions, that's something we certainly look at with our neighbor. Which would be a positive, so, yeah. So we'll have a quick exempt session, but we have IBB tomorrow night, at 5. We have a special meeting that we need to have to set the budget presentation. We have to have a budget presentation and set the hearing, which is always prior to our April board meeting, and typically it's been. We have a certified budget of April 15th, so that's why that April board meeting typically is always the meeting that we do that. But if that works for the board, we're going to meet with the city council at 6, 2 weeks from tonight. And Stacy and I thought it would be nice if we got everybody here. Be here at 5:15, do the budget presentation, set the hearing, go down to the council. And that would also constitute our work session.
So it's down there.
Uh-huh.
That's what I wondered.
Yep. And Joy, I don't know if it's already your goodbye or not. If you check Lori,
I think it is.
I think Mayor Barrett thought it was our turn to buy.
I think it is.
Again. Next regular meeting will be at 5:30 p.m. on April 9th. However, I'm going to recommend that we have our budget hearing at 5:15 that day. So that's where we're at. Superintendent rests. Are there questions from the group?